Hi, I'm Kathy. I'm a compulsive overeater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day that I have chosen from the blessed GreySheet. I write them down, I commit them to my sponsor, and I don't eat anything other than that, no matter what. What a privilege and an honor it is to be sharing my story here on this YouTube channel. My goal is to express what hopelessness I've had around how much food I've eaten, when I've eaten it, how much I'm going to eat, and the blessed relief I get from participating in the GreySheet food plan and the GreySheet community. My abstinence date is August 16th, 2012. Although I've been familiar with the GreySheet back into the 1980s. And I am maintaining, let's see, my top weight was 275, and I'm currently at 154. So that's about 120 pounds. Yes. Wait. 120 pounds. Okay, that's a lot of weight. I was just seeing a statistic lately that people that lost a lot of weight, only 1% of those people ever keep it off. And I like being in that 1% category. It's very difficult to lose weight on your own and keep it off. It just almost never happens. And diets don't work. Everyone knows that. What we have here, the GreySheet food plan, is a way of life, and it's just completely different than a diet. So I was born probably a compulsive overeater. It seems to me that when I look around the people in my family, that we probably have a good number of people who eat for reasons other than hunger. Food is like a drug. Food is what I use to calm myself down, to comfort myself. I remember being a very unhappy child, very tense and nervous and frightened, just so frightened about what I was going to do, how I was ever going to get through life. I felt so confused and inadequate and fat and distant and disconnected from life. It was just all consuming fear and discord within me. And of course, I learned early on that if I ate something, I felt so much better. I felt comforted. So, looking back, I mean, why would I do anything other than eat? If I felt that bad. And I wasn't uh, chubby as a little kid, but I can look at pictures and see that probably around 9 or 10, I started packing on the weight. And by the time, I was in junior high or in high school, I was about 200 pounds. Very awkward. Oh my goodness, I couldn't find clothes to fit. I made all my own clothes. There was, back in those days, they didn't have fat girl clothes in the store. And I remember at some point I was supposed to go to Lane Bryant and buy some fat clothes, and I just was so ashamed of myself. I think, that's probably the overriding feeling I had always, is this horrible shame. Just ashamed of myself, of every molecule in my body. Ashamed of the way I looked, ashamed of the way I thought, ashamed of the way I felt. Crazy. There was, I don't know why I felt that way. I really don't. Um, I grew up in an alcoholic household with a lot of violence and raging emotions, and uh, I I'm just glad I made it out alive. And So I got out of the house and I got a boyfriend, and I just kept eating and eating and eating and eating. And I remember it's funny when you lose weight, people are like, "Are you okay? Haven't you lost enough?" But when you gain weight, people don't say much. But so I was eating. I had this boyfriend, and he worked, and I stayed home and watched TV all the time, and I just ate and ate and ate. And I do remember, though, I saw this one woman. I had worked at a toy store with her, and I saw her like a year later, and she goes, "Girl, you're getting fat." And that was like the only time anyone ever said anything. And as I mentioned, my top weight was 275 pounds. And I had a moment of clarity when I was 24, and on 274 pounds, I had a moment of clarity where I just thought, oh my God, uh, I can't stand this. I can't do this. I can't. I have no job. Up until that point, I had a string of minimum wage jobs, and I worked at 5 different Jack in the Boxes, which was pretty blissful for me to be able to eat all the time. But anyway, I had this moment of clarity when I was 24 and 275 pounds. Like, this is not going to turn out. I don't know what I'm going to do. This is not going to turn out. Up until then, I kept thinking, oh, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. And at that moment, I'm like, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. And I always wanted someone to rescue me. Would somebody please just show up and do something? So I had that moment of clarity, and I realized, man, I better get up off this bed and start trying something. That was very profound, a very profound thought for me, to think that there was an answer outside of myself that I hadn't thought of, and I had to find out what it is. What's wrong with me? What is wrong with me? So I became a spiritual seeker at that moment. And it was another 4 years until I was 28 that I got into the 12-step programs. I entered first in February of 1982. I entered into Alcoholics Anonymous. And during that 4 years, from when I became a seeker until I got into into Alcoholics Anonymous, I had lost some weight by dieting. So I entered AA, around 200, 210 pounds, and quite quickly, after putting down alcohol and the other substances I was doing just to make it through the day, my eating flared back up again. I remember I had this boyfriend. I stayed with him, and he only had a microwave, no oven or stove top. And I can just remember putting food in that microwave and cooking it and just eating and eating and eating and being absolutely stuffed, full, and just could not stop. This boyfriend had mentioned to me there was a program called Overeaters Anonymous. And I thought to myself, well, that's really good for people that have never lost weight on a diet like I have. So I'm glad those people have that. But the eating was so out of control that I finally said to this boyfriend, I can't stop. I need help. And he took me to my first OA meeting. In fact, he took me to meetings until I was 6 months abstinent in OA. I went to AA and I started sharing right away, but when I came into OA August 1st of 1982, boy, you are talking about my main addiction. And I was scared to death because that's what I used to calm myself down, to cheer myself up, to comfort myself, to energize myself, to put myself to sleep. And these people were suggesting that I eat 3 meals a day, nothing in between. They handed me a piece of paper called the Dignity of Choice. And at that time, my sponsor, I picked a sponsor, and she said, you know, let me know what you're going to eat. And I decided I would count calories. So I looked in the calorie book and I saw that I could have like 4 cups of this vegetable and 4 cups of that vegetable because I was into volume, man. I wanted my belly to be stuffed just to keep down all my terror and emotions. So I started committing 4 cups of this, 4 cups of that. And she goes, hey, okay, forget it, forget it. Pick a food plan. So back in those days, it was the GreySheet food plan. That's what was basically what was given to you. And I looked at the amounts. It said like 4 ounces of this, 8 ounces of that, and it just sounded like the sickest thing I'd ever heard of. That's sick. That is sick. I might be sick with my food, but that is sicker. But I didn't know what else to do. So I picked, you know, this food plan and started calling in my food. And it was very difficult. I loved the food I loved, but those hours in between the food, wow. It was, I was freaked out about time. I was freaked out about moment to moment passing and me not eating. Because up until then, for 28 years, I ate. That was my answer. That was like breathing. And there were moment to moment went by and I did not eat because it wasn't time for my next meal. I want to acknowledge how difficult that was, how shocking it was. And I also want to throw in there that after all these years, it is the most natural thing in the world. It is blessed freedom. I have come to terms and comfort with the idea that I eat 3 glorious, amazing, luscious meals every single day and nothing in between. But, and now I'm so used to it. It is just so easy. But that first year, wrapping my arms around the idea, wrapping my mind around the idea that I am not going to be eating other than these 3 times was shocking, shocking. But I didn't know what else to do. So I did it, and the weight I had started coming off. Oh my goodness, I became a superstar. I remember at one time I was sponsoring 17 people. I mean, we just because you get abstinent doesn't mean you get sane. I really didn't know how to live. Before, you know, when I was growing up, what's supposed to happen, I think, is you're supposed to do things, and then if they're right, you feel good, and if they're not what you should be doing, you feel bad, and so you say, I don't want to feel bad. I won't do that behavior anymore. But for someone who's drinking or compulsively overeating, that that whole system breaks down because the behavior never changes because the bad feelings are not allowed to be felt. They're masked and numbed by a substance. So I only started to grow up when I put down the alcohol and when I put down the food. And I mean, I was like a baby. I was like a toddler. I was like a temper tantrum toddler kid. And so slowly over these years, I've grown up. And at 10 years of abstinence, somehow I started doing the GreySheet food program with GreySheet people. At some point, OA decided not to have a food plan anymore. And these women in Cambridge got together and said, we need this food plan. So they created a new program called GreySheeters Anónimos. And somewhere around 10 years of abstinence, I decided that I wanted to get a boyfriend. And I decided I would just take the GreySheet food plan and not do it no matter what. I wouldn't do it in restaurants, and I just would try and be normal. So I spent 20 years out there on my own. I was extremely lonely. I need a fellowship, and I love the GreySheet Fellowship. The quality of recovery that we have is extraordinary. Extraordinary. Anyone that wants recovery enough to do what we do, weigh and measure 3 meals a day from the GreySheet, commit them to a sponsor, and not eat anything other than that, no matter what. And that includes weekends and holidays, no matter what. Whoever wants recovery that bad, I just love GreySheeters, and I want recovery that bad. And on my own, trying to make food choices on my own, if I didn't have a food plan, if I didn't have the GreySheet food plan, oh my goodness, what a complete consuming waste of life that would be for me to try and figure out what to eat all the time, when to stop, how much to buy, did I eat enough, should I eat the rest of it, should I hide what I'm eating, just constant battle. So I, thank goodness, thank God, I came back to GreySheet community August 16th of 2012. And at that time, I was only about 180, and I immediately started losing weight. And oh boy, it's not about the weight, but it is about the weight. I mean, I apparently look slender, although, we're kind of funny about weight and how we look. So I have a sponsor who helps me figure out if what I'm weighing is the right amount. It may sound childish, and there may be people listening to this who feel like they're not as hopeless as me. That's fine. Go for it. Do it. Love it. But I need so much help. And my life is extraordinary. Doing the GreySheet food plan requires a lot of self-care. It requires a lot of planning and preparing. And every time I prepare my food and weigh and measure it and enjoy it, it brings me this level of self-regard, of self-dignity, of self-respect I never, ever thought I would ever achieve. I really have been such a bad actor early in my life. I was a thief. I was a liar and a cheat. And I actually have grown into this very dignified, respected, well-regarded woman. And I attribute that to my food being in order. That is like the foundation for my life. And not everyone has what I have. Not everyone has this hopelessness around food. And it's not a matter of controlling my food. I have no control over my food. It's a matter of complete surrender. And I surrender. Food and I had a battle, and I lost. And I surrender. And I have utter, complete peace with my food. If anyone that has what I have, this eating disorder, I am allergic to starches, grains, and sugar. I can never pick those things up, ever. There's not, if you go to AA, nobody says, oh, work the steps and then you can drink like a normal person. No, it doesn't matter how spiritual I get, I will never be a normal eater. And having my food in order, this is like AA for food. And it's so clear that I'm abstinent. And I have such blessed peace and freedom. I cannot express my gratitude. And that's what I wanted to say, is that I am a hopeless compulsive overeater. Intuition doesn't work for me when it comes to what to eat. I need a program like that we've all agreed on. We have a common solution. And that solution for us is GreySheet abstinence. And I love my food. And I love my abstinence. And I love being in a healthy, slim body. What a blessing. So thanks for letting me share. Thanks for listening. And I hope anyone that has what I have can find this freedom. Thank you.